Hello, everybody. It's Dreadful Talk time. It's that time of the week. This is episode 23. Have a really interesting, unique guest for you guys this week. Gonna really like it. I'll introduce him here in a second when he joins up with me. But I'll take this brief second to just introduce the sponsor. It is Zach Brown. Zach Brown can help you with real estate, property insurance, and life insurance. One man, 3 things he can help you with. Seems efficient to me. You can reach him at 405-255-7867. Zach Brown. He can help you with real estate, property insurance, life insurance, man. Guy, man, you hit him up, he can get it done regardless of what you need in those fields. Great guy to work with. He's going to make you feel comfortable, not some stuffy businessman. But yeah, you can reach him at 405-255-7867. All right, and let's get this week's guest on here. Oh, fuck. This is so strange. It says unable to join. Cooper, I see you're watching for some reason. It says unable to join. I want to confirm that you are watching from a phone. I believe that's going to be critical here. Maybe you can request to join in. I don't know. Whenever I go to request you, it says unable to join. Literally 23 episodes in, I've never seen that. So yeah, but it's all good. We'll let him try to figure this out. All right, let's try this real quick. Hey, my guy.
What up, dude? Sorry, hold on.
Oh no,
The
it's all
iPhone,
good, bro.
bro. I was like, I tried to throw it on the Surface just to see if it would work,
Yeah,
and it didn't work. So
no,
sad
for
days.
sure, bro. That man, Instagram is so like phone like focused and like it just yeah, it really is kind of annoying. I'm not gonna do it this way necessarily forever, but it's like right now I got like almost 1,000 Instagram followers and only like almost 100 YouTube subscribers, so it just seems like I might as well play to the audience that I have. You know what I mean?
No,
But
totally makes sense. Use your
yeah,
platform for what you have, like all your followers and shit.
yeah, for sure, brother. But yeah, like I said, I appreciate you being able to join me. For those watching or listening on another platform, this week's guest is my good friend Cooper Terrell. Really interesting kind of angle on the cannabis industry. Had no pun intended on the angle, but cannabis photographer here. And I'm sure you do more than just that. I'll let you kind of introduce yourself. But yeah, my good buddy Cooper Terrell, everybody.
What up? All right, yeah. Thanks, Dom, for having me on.
Yeah,
I
man.
think this is actually my first podcast experience.
Well, welcome, man. I'm glad. The first time's always special, as they say. And but man, yeah. So I'm just like I said. So everybody watching, me and Terrell, we went to school together. We grew up in the same hometown, Norman, Oklahoma, and it's just so crazy. I wanted to talk to this man because when we were growing up, like weed might as well have been meth or heroin, like dead ass. Like people's doors got kicked in over like a half ounce. Like it's
Yes, sir.
it was no fucking game. Like people may think I'm trying to over exaggerate. Like it was no fucking game at all. And so for those that don't know, I left Oklahoma in 2016, moved out here to the Bay Area. I'm in San Jose, California now. And like I said, when I left, like weed, like might as well have been meth. As far as like getting in trouble for it, as far as like how hard the police searched for it and cracked down on it, like it went. And I feel like it went 0 to 100 real quick because the next thing I know, I'm seeing dispensaries and shit. So like I said, I kind of want to just kind of get in to like just it seemed like a rapid overnight change, but maybe that's just because I'm out here removed from it. But you were there for the process. Like, how did Oklahoma go from being like the strictest state, you can go to jail for a gram, to you have a job as a cannabis photographer a few short years later?
That's a really good question. Honestly, Oklahoma it's really an interesting situation with the way that their legislation worked. Oklahoma is like one of the most progressive medical cannabis industries in the entire country, if not the most progressive. There's like barely any regulations. So you have like dispensaries every single block. I think now we're soon to, well, we were in talks with working with somebody out in California, and they were talking about how they were trying to figure out where to do business with their cannabis industry, and they were looking up dispensaries, and they found that Oklahoma had like the second most dispensaries behind California already, which is
That's
just
wild.
nuts. It's only been legal for like 2 years.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of people trying to get in on the crash grab. It makes sense, but it
Hmm.
kind of seems unsustainable. Like some of those are bound to go under. It's just the
Oh,
nature of how business works, right?
absolutely, absolutely. You'll see unfortunately, you see a lot of the mom and pop shops like honestly not doing too hot. You have a lot of those companies that come in. You have to have like you have the majority shareholder has to be from Oklahoma for your company, but
Okay.
like you have still have a lot of outside people who come in and fund or like teach people how to do certain processes and stuff like that. And you see a lot of those mom and pop shops honestly just aren't doing too hot. There was a ton, like it's still, I would say, like the Wild West here. Like it's insane. Like when it comes to people selling like product that's not from Oklahoma, or like hot cartridges or anything like that, concentrates with like
Yeah,
any type of garbage in it. Yeah.
that's the downside, right? So out here in Cali, I kind of moved out here. I moved out here right when it went rec. Like it went rec like a few months after me moving here.
Hmm.
So I got to witness that transition, and everybody kind of here. So out here, everybody kind of harkens back to the medical days, and a lot of people don't like the recreational for a few different
Hmm.
reasons. Um, so it went from being kind of underregulated, as you kind of described, to now it's like overregulated,
Right.
and the taxes are through the roof. Like I think right now
Hmm.
in San Jose, the taxes are like close to 33%. You're pretty much paying a third of whatever your subtotal is in
Hmm.
taxes. There's like three step. There's like the state tax, the just normal sales tax, and then there's like an additional cannabis tax. So it ends up being like, yeah, like 33% taxes.
It's
So
nuts.
yeah, yeah, but on the back in the medical days, they didn't have all those taxes because it was medical.
Right.
And
Do they not have a medical market at all in California? Is it strictly just rec?
no, they do, but I mean it's probably shrunk by like 90%. And that's what I'm kind of getting into. Like another thing that the medical like restrict the recreational restricted was like the milligrams available in edibles.
Hmm.
Like now, if you go to a recreational dispensary here in Cali, the most you can buy in one package is 100 milligrams.
Yeah, right. Same with Colorado.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Hmm.
so, but back in the medical days, I mean, they had like 1,000 milligram bars of death and shit like that,
Right.
and a
Hmm.
lot of people miss that shit. But yeah, so they still have medical here, and it's cheaper, and you can get like stronger stuff. But just most people just don't bother with it because, like, let's be real, like a lot of medical patients are just like people that want some legal weed. So it's like
Right.
once it went recreational, a lot of people didn't renew their cards and shit.
Right.
Um,
That makes
but yeah,
sense. That makes sense. I
but
shit. I don't
yeah.
know. I don't know. That's kind of the weird thing. I kind of like. I mean, I agree to an extent with certain taxing. Like, I mean, hell, rec market. They definitely need to tax the people who are using cannabis. But like, if we're talking like strictly medical, like, there's absolutely no reason that patients should be paying out extravagant amounts for their medicine. But
Definitely.
that's yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, yeah. Like here, there's like medical only like deliveries that you can get like $100 fire ass ounces, but like that same ounce at a rec is gonna be like probably like 250 or whatever. You know
Right.
what I
Right.
mean?
Right. Right.
But yeah, I don't know if you got anything, man. Feel
I
free to
do.
blaze it.
I do actually. I got my bong right next to me. Dude, yeah, it's crazy stuff going on here, honestly, in
Yeah,
Oklahoma
yeah.
with all this shit. It's a weird industry. You have a lot of people who are taking advantage of other people, and you have a lot of people who just are like you said, the cash grab. Like a lot of people just came in, like made their money and then got out. Like before, because now we're starting to see more regulations in Oklahoma with whether it be like every now I'm seeing like products recalled, not like frequently, but more frequently. So there's
Wow.
definitely more oversight than there
Yeah.
has been.
Well, and that's the
But it's
good
like,
part of regulation, right? And I kind
mhm,
of got off topic. But that's kind of so like yeah. As while some people view it as too much, but there's like zero hot cartridges in the California market. You know what I mean? It's
which is
impossible.
great.
It's
That's
impossible.
super
Like the
good.
lab, I used to work at a dispensary, and I got to like what before we even accept the product, we have to like view the lab standards, and like every box of shit we got had like the lab test results in it. And
Hmm.
if we didn't have the lab test results, we weren't allowed to accept the product, like even if it
Right.
was fine and
Yep.
packaged and all that. So like I that's I guess the upside is like you can when you're buying something in a highly regulated market, you can 100% have confidence that it's safe and reputable in
For
quality.
sure. And that's like really important, especially when you are like a patient. Because hell, like
Yeah.
there was just recently, because like you said, I do, so like my company, like I founded this company. It's called the Medicated Okies. We're on all social media too, so you can give a follow.
Yeah, yeah, give him a I love that
But
name, by the
also,
way, brother.
thank you. Yeah, I was pretty happy with that. But I founded it back in 2018, like right at the end of the year when I got my medical card, because it's actually a silly story. The entire reason I got into this, besides being a smoker in general, but my mom got her medical card before I did,
Oh
and
wow.
you're right, and she's not really, she doesn't really smoke, but
Yeah.
she like uses topicals and like patches and stuff to help her
Yeah.
with pain and sleep and stuff like that. But I she was like, she went in this dispensary and they totally upsold her on like a bunch of product that she didn't need. They were like pushing like garbage. And my mom would like, she came back, she like told me like and I was like, what the fuck? Are you serious? These people are just trying to take advantage of
Oh
you.
yeah.
And so
Yeah.
from that moment on, I was like, all right, maybe we should like get into this to try and like show people what's good, because all these people are the majority of the smokers were very uneducated. You know,
I
it's
can
like,
only imagine. Yeah, I kind
right?
of whenever I heard like I was like, oh, there's gonna be a bunch of people that just are talking out their ass.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's like, and I worked at a dispensary too for a while, and you get that one customer who walks in and is just like thinks they know everything, and you're just like, yeah, whatever you say, bud. But
Yeah, man, that would be frustrating. I mean, it's just different out here in Cali because it's been entrenched, especially here in the Bay Area. It's been like entrenched in the culture long before it was even legal. Like a lot of the
right.
technology and growing techniques and strains came from like right here where I'm at.
For
And
sure.
so like it is a little different. Like the public has just like a more general knowledge base to work with. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So but what I got to experience the ugly side of what you're talking about, and I'll just go ahead and say it and put them on
Hmm.
blast because South Park already blasted them. But I don't know if you saw the South Park episode where they clown MedMen. Do you remember
Yep.
that one?
Oh
So
yeah.
I
Yeah.
actually worked for MedMen, and I
Okay.
swear to God, everything in the South Park episode was true, bro. Like,
That's hilarious.
like in what I mean by the ugly side is how you said they upsold your mom. Like, when you're getting trained at MedMen, they're like, so we're viewing this as retail, not as like a dispensary. Like we're a retail store that retails
Hmm.
cannabis, and like they pretty much coach you to like upsell. And it was the same
Yep.
as like when I worked at like Finish Line back in the day. Like you want socks with this, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like it was yeah.
Yep.
And so that is kind of the uglier side of it, right? Just trying to
Hmm.
squeeze the customer for every
Right.
last little penny instead of getting them what they probably actually need or
Right.
want or whatever.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's that money in general. It kind of ruins a lot of things, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, overall, I mean, you got to be in favor of, like a legal market as opposed to the black market days. I mean,
For sure. Absolutely. And I mean, I think that especially goes back to just like criminal justice reform. Like,
yeah,
there's so many people who are locked up in jail for nonviolent drug offenses, predominantly African American men and Latino men. It's like,
yeah,
and then you look at, actually, it's another interesting thing. You look at like who are the groups of people who actually hold the most money in this industry, and it's a bunch of white people. It's like,
yeah,
what,
yeah.
that's kind of weird. One group of people is totally like facing the brunt of all of the criminal justice nonsense, and then you have, looky here, all the white guys are taking all the money from
Yeah,
everybody. It's
man. I
like,
mean,
well,
and unfortunately, it's one of those things like we've seen this story before, right? Like this ain't. I've seen, like I don't know. It seems par for the course, unfortunately, in this country. But yeah, no, that so it's one of those things where like the grass is always greener on the other side, right? Like whenever you leave it living in a non-legal state, it's always like like oh shit, if this shit was legal, all our problems would go away. But then I mean,
right,
you quickly learn that like it just creates new problems. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
But I still, like I said, I'll still favor it any day.
Hmm.
Like it keeps the prices down because you're not paying for like sketch factor. Like you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
I remember back in Oklahoma, back like when we were in high school. I mean, an ounce of some good bud was probably, I mean, you're getting close to
Almost,
$400. Yeah,
yes,
of
for
some
sure.
fire. And
Yeah, oh
contrary to
yeah.
popular belief, you could get fire back then
Yes,
if
you
you knew the
could.
right people, but you were gonna pay for it. And but now, I mean, what's an ounce of good quality medical weed going for down there now?
So it's kind of interesting because you have, depending on where this dispensary is located, is totally gonna just alter the price points. Like you have the dispensaries, in like Norman, Oklahoma. You got like one in Brookhaven Village, like across the street from Brookhaven Village. It has like a drive-through, and
And
it's
that's
like
like the hoity-toity side
you're
of
right.
town,
You're
y'all. For
like you
those
like
that don't
drive. You
know.
go through the drive-through, you see like all the soccer moms and shit like
Yeah,
buying
yeah.
their
It's
weed.
like
You're
the
like, what
Chick-fil-A
the hell?
drive-through. Like, is this
Yeah.
Starbucks? Like,
But like I would say like certain depending on location, like ounces can still be up in the 300s, which is
yeah,
kind of nuts in my opinion. I wouldn't personally spend that much on an ounce, but
yeah, yeah,
you can it still gets up there and then you'll see, you'll see deals of like $100 zips, but like when you get there, like anything that low in the Oklahoma market is pretty much boof though. Like
yeah,
in all
yeah,
reality, it's like garbage or
yeah,
like some outdoor popcorn. Like it's
yeah.
nothing
Yeah,
nothing
nothing
to
to
write
write
home
home
about.
about. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, for sure,
exactly.
right? Exactly. Yeah, man.
Exactly.
I mean, honestly, bro, people like I think people like overestimate or underestimate the Cali prices too. Cause like I remember when I first moved out here, all the homies like hitting you up like, oh shit, you got the plug for the low. And
Hmm.
I'm like, not really, dog. I mean, I got the quality, but as
Yeah.
far as like wanting like some crazy prices, like not really. Like it's because the market's been so like here for so long now, it's like really steady.
Hmm.
Like it's not like I'm kind of glad too, because like if it gets so cheap, like I don't know, like it just it
It's
needs to
bad for
maintain.
business at that
Yeah,
point, right?
and then it feel like the quality would go down. Like there needs to be there's like a perfect like make or break line, but and some
Hmm.
people go over that, but it
Hmm.
can't get too cheap or else it fucks up the market. But yeah, it's like I mean out here in Cali, like if you go to the dispensary, like a nice dispensary, kind of like you said, yeah, I mean you could easily find a $300 ounce still,
Yep.
and it won't even be necessarily as far as you think it would be for a $300 Cali like dispensary ounce. But like, unfortunately, to get a lot of the really good shit out here, it only comes in like jarred eights. So like you
Hmm.
can't even buy bulk, and like that shit gets expensive as fuck. Because
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about $60 to $70 before the 33% tax rate. And I mean,
That's nuts,
it's so
actually.
nuts, bro. Like I worked at MedMan. It's kind of like a rich dispensary. It's not, and like we would have people in come in because like the recreational limit here is like 1 ounce of flower a day, and
Hmm.
so people would buy like eight $70 eights to get their ounce, and it would come out to like 700 and something dollars.
That's fucking nuts.
It's so nuts.
You can
Yeah,
never catch me spending that much money on. Oh my
me
God.
neither. But I mean, they're like probably like tech millionaires and shit. Like
Right.
they don't
For
fucking care. Like
sure.
they
They
can
don't
drop in the
care.
bucket. But or like NFL players. I won't say no teams or names, but whenever the Green Bay Packers were playing the 49ers last year, a bunch of Green Bay Packers players came in. I ain't gonna say no names. I ain't gonna get, but it was
Hell
cool.
yeah.
It was cool. You know what I mean? But
That's
yeah,
that dude, those damn players should be able to smoke weed. It makes no sense to me. It's not a
yeah.
performance enhancing drug. If anything, it's fucking up your lungs a little bit. Like
Yeah, yeah,
what
and
the
especially all those motherfuckers smoking backwoods and shit.
yeah, right. Just
Dude, man,
roasting all that tobacco.
but yeah, I mean, and that's part of the fun of the podcast is kind of getting on tangents and shit. So, but I'm kind of bringing it back full circle. So, like, it went in 2018, right? Is whenever it went medical, right? And that's when you
Hmm.
started your company.
Yeah.
And so here, like, how and you were into photography before cannabis legalization, correct?
Yes. Yeah. It was actually like so I went to school for like visual communications. So it was mainly in graphic design, but also in photo. I took photography and like all that stuff. So like my entire like background of like my life, everyone in my family is artists, which is kind of like where it's led me to like down this creative path. Like my grandma, my great aunt,
That's
my
awesome,
aunt,
man.
my mom, like my great grandma was like the first like she was the first sales, it's like the first marketing and design firm owned by a woman in Oklahoma back in like
Wow,
or in the 1900s some point. But yeah, so like there's
that's
art's
dope.
always been a thing in my life. So I've kind of that's where I've been. But yeah, I was always interested in photography. Never really was like I had like some equipment like in the beginning. So when it all started, like we can go back to like 2018. Mom got ripped off from some stuff. And I was like, okay, we need to like show people what's up.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
So I ended up like I didn't even have my own camera at that point in time. I was like borrowing her old ass
Oh
like
wow.
Canon, and me and Sam Nicholson and Foster Hare,
Okay.
we
Shout out the
were
homies.
yeah, I hit up the homies because like I wanted some homies to do it with me. They both had their cards, so I was like, all right, well let's get it going. And so we would go in the beginning. We would just go to we'd call up dispensaries and be like, yo, we have a platform. We'll come in, we'll take some free photos, we'll throw you up on our social media and see what's up. Like just to because we like your product, we like your store. Let's educate. So like all of it was very pro bono for like the first year of just like going around educating people on like what are some good shops, what are some good strains, like this can help with that type of stuff
Okay.
with my old Canon. And then I ended up taking a hiatus, a pretty big hiatus from that company and from my job that or my company that I created, and worked for a dispensary for about a year. And then, in all reality, it was a great experience. I met a lot of cool people. Uh, the dispensary I worked for wasn't my favorite the people, but like it is what it is. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
then COVID struck. Like I was in a weird position where like I had just recently, like my lease had ended in November of 2019, so last year, and I was in the middle of like moving in with a buddy up in the city who I
Okay.
was working with. But
Okay.
then like certain things happened, COVID happened, so I ended up not moving in with my buddy. So I like got stuck in this situation where now I'm like at my mom's house still, like just trying to like during COVID, because I also that job I was my mom's an at-risk patient, so like I was like, okay, I'm sorry, but I'm not gonna like put her at risk just
Yeah.
to work at a dispensary right now for this pay. Like it's just not really worth it. Like I was
I was faced with the same decision, bro. I was working at MedMen when COVID hit, and
Mhm.
like especially at first when nobody understood social distancing or anything,
Yep.
I was like, I'm pretty much shaking like 300 people's hands a day. Like this is not a great idea. So
Right.
like I went home before even the lockdowns, like 2 weeks. I was like, I'm using my vacation, my sick pay. I
Hmm.
ain't working right now. I'm gonna ride this out and see how it plays out. Like
Yeah.
that was like March 18th. Like that was like way early in the game. I
Hmm.
was like, man, I don't know about this. So I totally relate. And I'm not even vulnerable. I'm actually super healthy, but I was just like, I don't know
Yeah. I
about
mean,
all
shit
this.
with the knowledge, we just don't know enough. Like
Especially back
it's not
then, we
worth it.
didn't have any idea.
Right. Right. Exactly. And so yeah, so just like keeping family safe. And I like had already had like a I've been doing like freelance work already for my graphic design and stuff. So I was like working for a nonprofit and doing all that stuff. So I still had like an income. So it wasn't like too big of a deal. And then so COVID struck and I was like, all right. Well, my buddy who was also part of this kind of hit me up and he had just recently spent a lot of money on like new camera
Oh,
equipment.
dope.
Like so like to even shoot these shots like on our page, like like breakdown, I do all types of cannabis photography, but our like specialty is ultra macro photography. So like we're doing shots on like 5 to 10 times magnification. So like you're able to actually see like individual trichomes. And
Yes,
so
yes.
yeah,
It's
which is
so
really
gorgeous.
fucking cool. Yeah,
Go
and you
check
can
out his Instagram. It's the Medicated
yeah,
Okies,
the
right?
medicated Okies. Yeah, yeah.
And,
Check
and,
her
and
Instagram out
and yeah,
for
you can
sure.
just see like individual little trichomes. For those that don't know what a trichome is, like when you see like a frosty nug, the like
Hmm.
individual pieces of frost is like what's referred to in
Yeah.
cannabis as the
So,
trichome. And he
yeah.
can zoom so far in that you see like a little mushroom. It's
Hmm.
so trippy and beautiful. But my
Yeah,
bad,
it's
continue.
no, you're totally fine. No, it's weird. Like you look at it and that microscope, like that lens, and you're like, this is almost looks like a different world. But yeah, so the trichome is like the psychoactive part of the cannabis. So that's
Yeah.
where your THC and your terpenes are located in all the trichomes on the cannabis plant. So
Where the magic happens.
exactly where the magic happens. It's cool though. You start looking at all these different strains with the macro photography, and you start to see like which cannabis strains like have stronger genetics just by like the fact of their like stalks being thicker, their domes being like larger, or just
Wow.
like the makeup of the flower itself. But so yeah, so we take a lot of like up close photography, do all that goodness, educate people. We're soon to launch a website here pretty soon.
Oh yeah.
We're thinking about some merch, doing all that good stuff.
Oh yeah.
We've recently been signing some contracts to work with some customers, so that's been blowing up actually a lot lately. But
Oh yeah.
COVID was kind of like the thing that set it off. Like I was saying, my buddy, he invested in a bunch of camera equipment and then hit me up because he had already been like working with me kind of earlier in the process of this company. But like I said, everyone kind of took a hiatus. And he started getting back into it during COVID because he had free time on his hands and he was possibly some job situation. I wasn't sure what the future was holding. So he's like, okay, well, maybe I
Yeah.
should just take this into my own hands and do what I need to do. And
Yeah.
so he
Yeah.
got all this dope equipment and he was like, yo, man, I was going to start up an Instagram, but I know we still have this, like, you still have this platform and you still have, almost 3K followers. Like,
Dope.
let's just get in back on it. And I was like, all right, dude, let's do it. And so he started taking the macros and it like inspired me even more. I was like, yeah, I mean, I could do like wide angle shots, but then I was like, all right, I need to get in on this equipment too. So I luckily like had some money saved up and spent a bunch of money on like what is called like a camera slider. So like it's like this thing that essentially I'll attach my camera to it like on a tripod, and it's you can like set it up lengthwise, like longwise or like forward, and it's like a little rail. So I control it with my phone. So I'll attach my camera to it.
Oh wow.
I'll put like a shutter cable into my camera, and then so on my phone I can like control movement of the camera by like less than like 0.01 centimeter. So like
Wow.
I can make it move closer or further by just like the tiniest micro movements. So that's what allows me to actually get those images, because each one of those images we're posting is actually a composite of like possibly 300 images in one.
Oh
Every
wow.
single image,
Really?
yeah, every single image we're posting that is those macros are macro stacks. So it's like a process where I'll set up the camera, I'll set like a field of view, so maybe like a two centimeters, like that's it. It'll only scoot up 2 centimeters,
Wow.
but it will change the focus, because like when you have this lens, a macro lens, it's the focal point is like a nanometer, like a nano. So it's like very, very, very tiny. It does not get much of the flower in focus at all. So you have to take like hundreds of photos at different like lengths of closeness to the plant itself. And so like it's such a fucking cool it's so cool. Like
Yeah,
I'll
no, that's
control it all
really
with
cool.
my
My
phone.
mind's kind of blown.
I put it on like a time lapse, and I like, you can't be in the same room with while it's taking the photos, because even me like stepping on the floor or like barely touching like the table will completely wobble. Like I'll lose focus, it'll shake. So like I have to set it up. I like set the
And then
lapse and I
leave.
like leave my room like completely.
Wow.
I like leave for like 10 minutes, let the photos take, and then I'll process them on my computer. But
Wow.
yeah, it's a crazy process, but it's a
That's
lot
cool,
of
man.
fun. It's a lot of fun. In the Oklahoma market, there's really nobody doing it. That's another thing. Like you see like this type of photography, you'll see it in like California, Colorado,
Yeah, I mean,
some in
honestly, bro, like
Nevada, but
most of the dispensaries I go to have shitty ass pictures. Like, and I go to like good dispensaries, even out here in the Bay Area. Like, they ain't touching nothing like that. Like most of them have like a shitty like picture of like kind of like an eight together, and then
right,
like a shitty picture of like a nug that like the background's been like photoshopped out of.
right,
And,
totally.
and these are pretty legit like California
Hmm.
dispensaries, and they just like, yeah, no, like even yeah, even at MedMen, which is a big, huge brand,
Hmm.
and all kind of, fancy or whatever, and even their pictures, I mean, they were a little better, but not nothing
Right.
close to your shit. So yeah, man, like I think what you're doing is pretty special. Like even regardless of just in Oklahoma, man, like I think you would even be successful out here doing that, man.
Yeah, that's what we're kind of hoping for, the like the way that legalization pans out, that maybe, when it keeps going, we move into another state and keep going from that. But
Yeah, yeah,
in all reality, it's like the whole situation. It's just it's such an interesting, like, I don't know. You're talking about like the way that the other dispensaries, like a lot of these places don't have good photos. It's like everyone is so like visual. I don't
yeah.
understand why people don't put more like play into that. Like I guess maybe that's just because I've been surrounded by artists my entire life that I think like that. But like I'm like, me personally, like I'm attracted to pretty pictures. Like like those are the things that like gain my attention. But like
Yeah.
when someone's putting some like unfocused like picture of some flower, it's like, am I even supposed to be like, is this supposed to be good? Like I can't even tell.
Yeah,
I feel like marketing is like very important, visual. Like I
or
don't know.
sometimes I swear they just be having like a random like Google image of just like some
Right?
nug. Like, how
Oh,
do I
for
know that's
sure.
this nug? Like, I don't know. That
For
could be any nug.
sure.
Like, the shit in this jar don't really look like that. Like, I don't know. I
No,
feel
you're
you, man.
totally right. You're
I
totally
feel
right.
you, man. That shit is suspect for sure, man.
And
And
it's
like,
funny, there's actually a dispensary called Tegrity in Oklahoma. Like a
that's hilarious.
legit, they're like, it's really, I'm kind of surprised how they haven't gotten in trouble for that name, but it's like Tegrity Market, like
I think
100%.
South Park is just like, we're not gonna throw a stone in that glass house as far as like going after people for copyright. Like we've broken
Yeah,
every copyright and fucking
right.
under
Hopefully
the
so.
sun. And I could see them being cool about that shit. But
oh no, you go ahead. You go ahead.
oh man, I mean, nothing that important, but like how I just wanted to kind of touch on something else that's gonna essentially you can expect to eventually happen out there. Is that because you
Hmm.
said there's like a dispensary on every block, completely unregulated.
Hmm.
What happened out here, like at least in San Jose and a lot of the like Bay Area cities, is like they're relegated to like there's like cities have zoning like this is a residential zoning or a
Yeah,
commercial zoning or industrial zoning. Like
sure.
they're regulated, they have to be in industrial zones. So
Interesting.
and that's not everywhere. Like in
Uh-huh.
Berkeley, like where Cal Berkeley is, like it's like they're right on the strip, like Campus Corner. Like there's dispensaries like on the main strip. But like here in
Hmm.
San Jose, all the dispensaries have to be like in industrial areas of the city. So it's like by like big like fucking like I don't know like scrap yards and shit. It's kind of
That's
random, but it's like
crazy.
breweries and like dispensaries have to be in like these industrial like parts of the city. So
Interesting.
it wouldn't shock me to see that happen maybe eventually. Maybe not though. Like certain states don't take that approach,
Hmm.
but yeah, man, that's pretty wild. So like it sounds to me that like just looking at it on a macro level, just kind
Hmm.
of zooming out a little bit, just on the whole, like medical cannabis has been really good for the state of Oklahoma. Would you say?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, there's tons. I mean, I mean, you have a lot of tax revenue. Now, do I
Yeah,
know what the Oklahoma legislature or state, like what they're doing with it? I mean, it's supposed to go to education. I don't know if that's actually happening or not, but
yeah, I feel you.
there's definitely a lot of like patients who are getting like tons of help. My mom, for
Yeah,
example, but like when I was working at the dispensary, we had tons of people who, were regulars who would come in specifically for like gummies or edibles because they had knee problems or like someone couldn't they had cancer and they like needed something to help stimulate their appetite, make their day a little bit easier, like reduce pain, like all. There are so many patients that have like legitimately gained like a better have a better life because of cannabis, and it's
yeah,
crazy to me that there's such a gnarly stigma. I mean, it makes sense. Okay, yeah, I guess it makes sense with our older parents generation and like whatever, all that goodness. But like, it's so helpful for people. And I think it was interesting. I kind of had this, we have this idea of like the way that the shift is going to move from cannabis, like once the stigma is kind of reduced and once it's fully legalized, is I think that we'll see a lot less like smokers, like just stoners. I think you'll see a lot more people who are like actually like into it for the medical benefits. I think that like so many people are turned off by it just because of like negative stigma, like illegality, like all that shit. That
yeah.
once it's like people can see that, like, oh, wait, I don't have to take these opiates. Oh, wait, I don't need this medication. I don't need this. So I can just holistically medicate with like cannabis. And I think that that will totally change like a big perspective. I think there's like a large awakening in general when it comes to like pharmaceutical industry. So many people are steering away from that, right?
Yeah,
Like it's corrupt as fuck. Like they're over here
yeah,
trying to get you on pills, addicted, or like it's like they only address the symptoms, but they don't address the cause. Like that's like the whole marketing scheme there. It's like it makes sense. I mean, money, like it totally
yeah.
makes sense. But there's a huge place for and there's that huge awakening, especially with like our generation, of like the pharmaceutical industry is a bunch of bullshit. Like maybe I
Yeah.
mean there's definitely a place. Like don't get me wrong. Like
Like
holy
there's
shit,
certain things like
there's
like
so like
antibiotics
yeah, and I mean
and
there are people who need antidepressant, like literally need antidepressants. Like there's stuff that like absolutely is like there's a need for it. But is there an over prescription problem? Is there an over medicating problem?
and,
Absolutely.
and nobody holding these guys accountable
Right?
problem and like an oversight problem. Like in
Mm-hmm.
states like Florida where it kind of went way too far, now they're reeling it back in and there's more oversight. But
Mm-hmm.
a lot of these states that didn't quite get to that tipping point where like FBI came in, fucking like it's still yeah no like they'll prescribe you goddamn anything.
Right.
Like I rarely go to the doctor, but when I do, I literally be telling them like nah like I'm
No, I'm
good
good on that. Yeah.
I don't need like I broke my hand. I don't need like a fucking opiate. Like I don't.
Right.
So
That's an interesting, like they hand out opiates for some reason. They like hand them out. It's like,
yeah.
oh, you have this pain problem, here's an opiate. Even if like an opiate doesn't necessarily like what is that? Like it turns off receptors in your brain? Like isn't that I'm not sure if that's the exact like chemical. I know that certain like it either it turns I'm not okay, whatever. I'm not really
I
sure.
mean,
But
it honestly, bro, like, I mean, this is going to be like the bro science, like, definition of it, man. They fuck you up, right? Like, to
for
me, like,
sure.
what's the difference between the Cowboys used to drink whiskey? Like, they just because you want to get fucked up and you can't feel that shit, bro. Like
Right,
one
right.
time I hyperextended my elbow, like, playing football in college, and I took a Oxy. I like for what I thought was like legit purposes.
Mhm.
And I was like, man, this thing just has me fucked up. I
Right. You're
mean,
like,
like,
I don't even think about any of this other shit.
yeah, yeah, like, oh, it
Hmm.
just fucks you up, which is like, I don't
Hmm.
know, man, and like, and then going on like the stoner stigma, like I'll kind of speak up for the stoner stigma, and like obviously there are people that are like unmotivated and like classical lazy stoners, but I think a lot of people that maybe get lumped into that category, and I'm not saying you're calling me, I'm just talking about the broader
Yeah, no, yeah,
conversation
for
here,
sure, for sure, for
like
sure.
the man, because like a lot of people would call me like a classical stoner, right? Like I'm not medical, like I'm healthy, but people have no idea just like how much it just helps me get through the day. It's like,
Right.
and I just feel like that can't be like to me, that's kind of medical too,
Hmm.
because like I would be detrimental to myself and potentially others without it. And some people hear that and think it's like a crackhead or like cigarette, like, oh, you get angry without it. Like, no, man, like my reactions to shit is just like it gives me like that buffer that I
Hmm.
need. And like I said, now is that medically diagnosable? Like maybe some people might call that anxiety or whatever the fuck. But I'm just saying, like, you don't necessarily have to like have a word put on it to just necessarily help you have a more,
Hmm.
successful and healthy life. Like I don't know, like I know so many people like, and it's kind of like an old school stoner cliche, but like somebody's walking by, they're all pissed off, or you have a miserable ass boss who hates his life, and everybody's just like, Jesus, that guy could use a joint, right? But like,
Right.
it keeps us from becoming those fucking horrible people that we
I
hate. Like, I
totally
swear to
agree.
God, like, I would be a crabby, grouchy, fucking negative, complaining ass motherfucker without weed. Like, and I'll admit that, but like I don't know, just like those we've all met those miserable ass fucking tight ass people that are just like Jesus Christ,
Smoke a
give them a
J,
gun.
like,
Yeah,
yeah, you're just too stressed out. Like, my God. No, I for sure agree. I think that also, I think we'll find that a lot of people smoke weed. They think that they're smoking it just because they enjoy it, but in reality, they are like medicating in some form or fashion, like
yeah,
without even
man.
in knowing it. But
Yeah,
absolutely, I think that that's totally, yeah, I mean, that's one of the big reasons I use is anxiety, stress, stuff like that. I think it's totally altered my entire worldview. Like, I mean, I don't, I, maybe this is, and I think you're totally right. It goes back to like that idea of like the stoner. I think that that's just it's totally independent on the individual, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it does exacerbate certain qualities of people. I mean, that probably is true to an extent, but the lazy stoner is not a thing. Like that's not
yeah.
reality.
Because
Like
how
that
many
person was
just
most likely lazy before they started smoking weed anyways. Like
well,
I
yeah, if
don't know
somebody's
what
a
you
piece of shit and they happen to smoke weed, it's like that. The weed isn't
yeah.
what makes it's like apple. It's like chicken and the egg. Like you were definitely a piece of shit long before you started smoking
Right?
weed. Like
Like
I don't know.
you never did shit before you started smoking weed. What do you mean it's no different now? Like,
Yeah,
yeah, no,
and then
I know.
there's some people that it's just like, right, like I ain't going nowhere in life. Like I'm kind of whatever, maybe my decisions, maybe it's
Mhm,
circumstances. I find myself here in this shitty position.
mhm.
I might as well be high for it.
Right?
Like
Like, might as well smoke a joint. Like,
yeah, like, and I kind of like, that's not the worst thing in the world either, man. But man, so you've been to Colorado, I know,
mhm,
plenty of times. And
mhm.
have you ever been out here to Cali?
I have been to Cali. I haven't been to Cali. Like, I visited Cali. I think it came in 2013 or 2014. I
Okay,
think it was
so
2000,
so
and
it wasn't wrecked
it
yet.
wasn't rec. No, and when I went, I was with my ex girlfriend, and she wasn't as crazy about smoking, so it wasn't like I went out of my way at that
Yeah,
point to go like because I was like, yeah, it's not really that big of a deal. But
no, I
now
feel
I
you.
would be much more interested now, especially with
Yeah,
where I am in this industry, to just kind of see what's good.
Yeah,
But
kind of compare. That's what I was going to
mhm,
kind of ask you. So I guess I'll just frame it like versus Colorado.
mhm,
I mean, like how is the quality like compared to Colorado? And I know that's a kind of a hard question to answer because, like you said, some dispensaries are going to have better, some
mhm.
brands are going to have better. But like just say, let's just call it like you buy a $45 eighth, like not top shelf, but not bottom shelf. Like say you buy like a $45 eighth in Oklahoma versus like a $45 eighth in Colorado. Like how's that quality gonna match up?
So like I'd say pretty close in all
Okay.
reality. If you're looking at if you're going to the right growers, like
Yeah.
that's like super important. You're keeping in mind like the right growers and the right processors. But like when it comes to like top quality, they're right on par.
Yeah.
Absolutely right on par. There's like cultivars out here that are like there's some flower and stuff that I've seen that like blows the fucking socks off of the shit I've seen in Colorado. Like there's
Hell yeah.
definitely but then again, I think that also comes from the fact that a lot of these people who are like killing it probably had some outside person come in and
Yeah.
teach them the
From one of those
process.
states, probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and taught them what to do. Or maybe they've already been, maybe they were Okies, but they lived in Colorado and grew for some company for so long. So,
Yeah. No,
I
I
mean,
feel you.
I would say though, dude, definitely quality is up there.
That's awesome. That makes me happy to
There's,
hear.
dude, yeah, absolutely. There's every single level of whether it be like concentrate, flour, like any of that shit. It's all there's if you know who to shop for, like you know who to look for, you're 100% gonna get like good shit for
Yeah,
sure.
well, and out here it's the flip side, bro. Like, there's a lot of companies that strictly get by on that name, like oh,
Hmm.
Humboldt County this, like almost every fucking jar is Humboldt County
Right.
outdoor, Humboldt County
Like and
indoor,
like
and
all
it's
the
like
cookie shit and there's like
yeah, it's
burners,
like
all this crap and
that doesn't make it good, dog. Like just
hmm
because like man, I'll be real, the cookie shit is legit. I've never seen no bullshit from
hmm
cookies, but it's expensive as dick. Like it's like 70 and eighth pre-tax.
Yeah, it's that
So
hype beast.
yeah,
It's that crap.
exactly. It's that hype beast. It really is.
Hmm.
Man, some of the best growers out here is I think it's called Ember Valley. Ember
Okay.
Valley is a super high end. Um, man, a lot of it's slip. Connected Cannabis has some
Okay.
really nice stuff, and I like them. I like brands that make their own strains too.
Right.
Like I don't need like you're like another sour diesel, homie. Like
Right.
I don't know, like or like, and I don't know. Let me ask you this: is there like a in style like kind of terp trend out here? Like right now, like out here, I mean, and it's probably like this out there too. It's just like dessert ridden. Like every menu under the strains, it's sherbet, it's
Hmm.
gelato, it's cookies,
Yep.
it's ice cream cake. It's like the
Hmm.
dessert terps are just like overwhelming out here. Is it the
Yes.
same way out there?
I would definitely say so. Those is like desserts, something about the like the cookies and like all those like strains. That there's tons. I have like ice cream candy, ice cream cake. I have purple gelato. Like I have all these shit
Yeah,
like right
yeah,
next. Like
yeah.
all this shit's like very like fruit pink sugar cookies. Like yeah, like it's all a lot of it's fruity, but in reality, I'm all about. I like the gassy terps. Like
Yeah, it's
yeah. I
hard to
have some.
find them, so I appreciate
Mhm.
them whenever I get them.
Right.
Yeah,
Like I have some GMO right now. This like GMO Mac 5, this hybrid. It's just fucking smells like a skunk's butthole. Like it's just like
hell yeah.
it's so good though. It's
Yeah,
great.
man. Yeah. So like, same with you. I've been just having dessert terps, just one after the other for like a
Hmm.
6 months like straight, and then my concentrate plug got some amnesia haze, and
Okay.
it was so just delicious and hazy and just so different, just on the palate than everything and it was so nice, a nice change of pace. I love the dessert terps. Like I really do. I feel like more so in flour than concentrates. Like some good cookies flour with that real cookies flavor,
Hmm.
I'm down with. Um, but like, yeah, my concentrates, I kind of like more of like a citrusy concentrate,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
like
man.
that. I'm a fan of the citrusy and stuff like that limonene, linen, and then you get that like terpinolene is like there's some strains that like high. Are you very like versed in like certain like terpenes and shit?
You know what? I'm versed in like I know about terpenes and what they do, but as
Hmm.
far as like remembering which one of them long ass
Right.
words is which one.
Yeah,
I'll
no,
be
I
real,
feel
I'd be
you.
mixing it up.
I feel you. I feel you.
But yeah, that's one thing. That's probably the biggest thing I took out of like my time working at a dispensary was actually learning like kind of the X's and O's of cannabis. Like I thought I knew a lot, and I turned out I didn't know shit. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I knew that like street level shit. I didn't know like the actual, like you said, the terpenes and all the different,
Hmm.
and I still can't say this word right, but like cannabinoids and like
You pretty, I mean, yeah.
and like and just like how different ones now on y'all's shit out there, does it have like total THC and total cannabinoids on the label, or does it
So
differentiate between the
it's not
two?
required to have the cannabinoids on there. It's required for the THC. I think that's like actually the only thing that they require to be on the label. But like some places go above and beyond and will put like terpenes and shit and stuff like that, which I like really like. If you are a dispensary who's putting like the grower and terpenes on your packaging, you're
Yeah,
already 10 times better than the majority of every dispensary in the state because that's the thing for me. Like when I would tell patients, I'd be like, hey, y'all need to like get a journal. Like get a journal, grab a couple grams of like each of these different strains I'm gonna suggest you for different things, and then write down like what was best for you. And then write down like what the flavor was, or like what it was, or we can cross examine and tell you what terpenes were the most prominent, so we can actually like pinpoint what's really helping you. Because like the more I smoke and the more I'm understanding terpenes and stuff like that, like there are definitely terpene profiles that like give me like hardcore anxiety. Like there's certain strains,
is
and
it
it's
like the
not just
Jack
like,
Herrera shit?
dude, Jack is actually not bad at
Oh,
all for me.
really?
Jack is
Okay.
not bad for me. It's I don't know exactly which terpene like specifically. I mean, it's probably myrcene to an extent
Yeah.
because that like reduces like your blood barrier and allows more THC to get into your system. So I mean that probably has a play in it, but I'm not
Jack
100%
to me
sure.
can be like a little racy. Like
Jack is definitely a racy strain.
yeah.
It's funny the like Jack Hare, like the guy who made the strain, actually produced that strain specifically because he was smoking sativas and they were giving him heart palpitations. So he
Oh
wanted an
wow.
energetic strain, like he wanted an energizing strain, like I said, a normal. I mean, I say sativa, but in reality, that's probably just the terpenes that give you the energizing stuff. But like he wanted an energizing strain that wouldn't give him heart palpitations, so he bred Jack Hare without myrcene in it. So
Oh
like
wow.
that's like specifically doesn't have that one terpene that like is very like it, and if your Jack has that, then that's kind of a weird cut because it shouldn't actually have myrcene in it.
That's
But the
interesting, man.
yeah, it's a weird stuff, and it's funny. Like once you start to get like certain strains and you start to see them frequently enough, you'll start to be like just like won't even need to look at it. You can just smell it and be like, all right, this
Oh
is
yeah.
exactly that. And if this is it, oh, you're telling me this is Jack and it smells like this? No, don't think
Yeah,
so. I
there's
don't know
certain
what the fuck this
strains
is.
like Jack I can smell. Girl Scout cookies I can identify by smell. I used to be able to do Blue Dream back when it was more like prevalent, but it's not
Hmm.
as like prevalent anymore. So it's been a while. But yeah, Jack Herrera and Girl Scout cookies, do not try to fake me on that because I can smell that a mile away.
Right.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I used to like when I was younger. I was like pure sativa. Like every time I would try to get my hands on a sativa, I would. And
Hmm.
like I think it just came from this like childish fear of like getting smoked out and going to sleep. You know what I mean? But
Right.
whenever the older I get, I don't know. I really learned to just really starting to dive into these indica hybrids and these indicas. You usually get, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe this is bro science, but I found that like the indica hybrids and the indicas tend to A, look a little prettier, and B, taste a little better. Like now, whether or not that high for you is for you, that can be up for debate, but I feel like
Hmm.
some of the deeper flavors are gonna be in the indicas because I remember people would always come in the dispensary and be like, I want like some really flavorful stuff, but I want
Hmm.
it to be a sativa. I'm like, well, I mean, sativa is probably going to taste like Jack or citrus, like one of those
Hmm.
two things. So it's like,
Yeah, it is definitely more citrusy. Sativas are definitely, at least those energetic racy sativas. I think that goes hand in hand with like energetic strains in general. I think it's like high in that like citrusy like because you like I always compare it to essential oils. Like this is my major comparison is like essential oils. You have like drivers, and then you have like things that are like relaxers. So you have like lavender. Like people use
yeah,
lavender to
yeah,
help
yeah, that's
sleep,
right.
and lavender like I don't even know how to pronounce it
No,
properly,
that
but
you're right. That's
that's
a
like one of the
terpene that's
main
found in
prominent.
some
Yeah,
indica
and
strains.
it's common in indica strains, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
then you have you have like citrus like lemongrass or like stuff like that, which is like limonene and stuff like that, which is they give those for like energizing and essential oil stuff. So like when you're like waking up, you're like putting in the limonene shit because it's like,
Yeah,
oh, up and
totally.
but so like I reference it, I kind of like associate those two as similar to a degree,
Yeah,
which I
no,
think
and
that makes
it's when I first learned about that, that blew my mind because it's like the same exact shit that's in the orange that makes that orange smell like an orange. That's the same exact
right.
shit that's in that citrus smelling weed. Like it's the same, like so, like I don't know. When I was younger, I just didn't understand that. Like, oh, like how does this smell like citrus, or how does this smell like whatever?
Right.
And it's like literally your brain isn't like lying to you. It smells citrus, like it
For
actually does.
sure.
Like that's trippy whenever to first learn about that.
It's
But man,
badass.
after hearing me kind of talk about some of like the downsides of recreational, what happened out here in California, the strict regulations, the high taxes, the you know, do you are you at all interested in recreational out there, or do you think you want to keep it medical, or like if Cooper was governor of Oklahoma, what how would you lean on that? Like,
Okay, so if in all reality, I mean, I think it should be rec all over the country, just because, like, I mean, if we're gonna keep it on a medical only thing, then I still think we'd probably still prosecute people for having cannabis, right? Like, if they don't have a medical card, wouldn't they be still like get in trouble? So that's kind of, but also, I know it's funny. Oklahoma's like they've tried to put rec on the ballot somewhat recently, and it's just not. It's like no one. It's not getting traction at all. And I think it's because of exactly what you're saying. When they compare it to California, and they're like, "Whoa, this is not what we
or
want."
even and in like worst case scenarios, Illinois, bro. Have you heard about Illinois? They have a
Not
hundred
specifically.
percent tax rate. Like
Dude,
you go
that's
buy a
fucking that's
$60 eighth,
right.
it's $120 out the door.
Yeah, and Michigan is a fucking absurd tax rate too. Like all
Yeah,
this,
so
but
that's the door you open up with
yeah,
rec,
that
and
that
like
is the door. That's fucked. That is fucked to an extent. But like in all reality, if we go back to the concept of like, I mean, it is like a substance. It is maybe not necessarily it. We don't have full science. We can't necessarily say that it's good for you. Like, I
yeah,
mean,
no, I feel
we
it.
have
That's
we
fair
have
enough.
we have anecdotal evidence
Yeah,
clearly that it helps a lot of people. So in reality, I'm sure it does. But like, there's not that evidence there yet. So it's almost like
but
I
man,
think,
I'll take you a step further just to be devil's advocate here. Just kind
yeah,
of I don't know, just how my brain works. Like,
yeah,
why is that the standard? Like Big Macs aren't like
hmm
healthy for you,
for
or
sure.
anything. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
When why is this system of it has to be good for you or medicine arbitrarily applied to cannabis?
That's valid.
You know what I'm saying? Like Twinkies aren't
Totally.
regulated, or you know what
Right,
I'm
right.
saying? Like it's
Yeah, well, shit, you go to some states that actually have like a soda tax, don't they? I think there's like places in like it's like, I don't know if it's
well
New York,
out
but they
here
have
in
places that
Cali,
have soda taxes.
there's like a kind of like a squirrely one where it's not it's called a CRV tax, which you're actually taxed on the individual bottle it's in,
Oh,
not
really?
necessarily what's inside of it, but
Interesting.
what's sold in single serving things, soda, and so
Hmm.
it kind of
Play, yeah, I see,
yeah.
no, I see exactly. I see that comparison. I
But
think though
I
the
think
only reason, oh no, you go,
oh,
go.
sorry, man. I was just about to say, and a lot of my like old heads, like a lot of like people that have been around for a minute and seen this whole process play out here in Cali, a lot of them say that the real answer here is neither. It's option C. It's decriminalization,
Decriminalizing it.
which some people fail to understand the difference. When something's decriminalized, it and but this comes with the regulation issues. It becomes essentially like unregulated, and like you
Hmm.
just don't get. It's like it's like growing corn, or like
Right.
or any other
Hell,
just
shit, growing corn probably is more regulated, honestly.
no. That's what I'm saying. So it's murky because like on one hand, as far as like avoiding the taxes and just kind of keeping the government out of it, and like keeping another argument for decriminalization over federal rec is a lot of people theorize that once it goes federally rec, there's like going to be these mega corporations like Budweiser and
Hmm.
Marlboro and shit that like
Yeah, that's a
and
big
then
fear, and that's
yeah, that's a big
understandable.
fear. That's a big fear
Hmm.
of like federal legalization is that at that point,
Hmm.
like, you're buying like filtered cigarette like joints at
Right,
Walmart of like
right,
God knows what, or I don't know.
right. I think that like I think that legislation can still be done properly. Like you look at actually like the Sanders campaign when they were pushing for the legalization of cannabis, and their plan for how they were going to do it was like completely not, it was like not allow company like Fortune 500 companies or like certain people to even become involved in the whole situation. Like it forbidded those companies and like those individuals and those groups from even investing into the market itself. So
Damn.
it's like there's ways to go about it. It just depends on who's writing the bill. Like that's so important. Like
Yeah.
unfortunately, like if it's someone who's money hungry, then for sure we're going to see but like like these big corporations get into the cannabis industry. But if it's like somebody who's like actually passing legislation for the good of the fucking country, then it could totally be worded and
Yeah.
done properly to keep these scumbags out of it. Absolutely. But that's so difficult in our political climate, even with Democrat or
And money
Republican
talks,
leadership.
right?
Like both sides of the party are very intertwined with lobbyists,
Yeah.
private interests, shit like
Yeah.
that. So I mean, it's like it's so dependent on the individual. But back to the idea of, I think rec is super important. I think it should be recreation. I also like I think taxes are like really fucking important. I don't know. Like I think now, do I think that maybe the tax rate should be as high? I don't necessarily know. I don't have enough information to like have an input on that. But I know for sure if we go rec, there still needs to be a medical market. Like there
Yeah.
has
Yeah.
to be a medical market
Yeah.
because
That's how it is
there's
out here in Cali.
right.
It's both.
There has to be people who are looking for actual like patient help that should be able to afford their medicine without gnarly taxes. Like if you really need that, you have a medical card, you should not be taxed like that. You should
Yeah.
not probably
Yeah.
even be taxed at all in all reality. But the rec market, I think it should be taxed. But I think it should go rec, and I think we should tax it because I mean, shit, dude, the revenue. I mean, we look at our states. We look at Oklahoma, for example. Our economic shortfall is huge. Like
Yeah.
we are in major debt. We have like our education system is utterly garbage.
I
Like we
try to
don't tax.
describe it to people out here, and they
Right.
think I'm like lying. Like they
Right.
think
You're
it
like
sounds like a grandpa story. I'm like,
it's
nope, I'm only
fucking
26.
nuts.
Like,
Like that you see Oklahoma as an example, and like the tax revenue from cannabis could literally fund teachers. Like it
yeah,
could pay teachers a better wage. Like there's so many great things that could be drawn from this, but
yeah,
it's just dependent on our leaders actually doing what they need to do. And that's where it gets gray because
yeah.
like
That's
these
where it gets
people are
gray.
not necessarily fucking, they don't have our best interest in mind, especially not in Oklahoma. I can promise you that.
Yeah, yeah, man. It's man. So and, this is gonna kind of be a little bit off topic, but I think it'll be an interesting thing to talk
Hmm.
about with you. Just because, man. So, I came from Oklahoma, and as everybody knows, Oklahoma's pretty much like a red state, one of them as red about as you can get. And
Right, it was called for Trump at 0%, literally on
wow,
fuck. Like what?
wow, that's crazy. But out there in Oklahoma, I was considered like this, like essentially like radical lefty hippie. And but it's crazy now that I've moved out here to the Bay Area, which is one of the most liberal places in the world. I feel like out here I'm one of the more like right wing people.
You're
Like
more
for
moderate for
yeah,
sure. Yeah.
yeah, like and it's just and honestly, I'd have it no other way because that lets me know that I'm like essentially kind of not being influenced or I'm thinking for myself like
Hmm.
but I don't know, I just thought that was like an interesting dynamic. Like I went from out there like being, I thought I was so damn liberal, and then
Hmm.
I move out here and I'm like, Jesus Christ, am I a
Right.
Republican? Like I know I'm obviously not, but like
Right, but I get what
compared
you're
to some
saying.
of these people,
Yeah,
you
no, I
know what
feel
I'm
you.
saying?
Yeah.
Like you
I
know what I
would
mean?
consider myself a pretty heavy leftist. I'm a fucking really big leftist. But it's funny, we have some.
I would love to see you though, bro. Like, and like, I'm not like, just like, I'm actually saying like a social experiment. If you lived out here, like I live in downtown San Jose right now with like homeless encampments at the end of my block and like a
Right.
lot, and I would love to see you live here for, you know what I'm saying, a while and
Hmm.
wonder if you would still like kind of
Right.
like harbor a lot of those beliefs. Cause
Hmm.
that's what happened to me. I moved out here and I was like so like empathetic with everything. And then you realize like, oh shit, like some problems can't be solved with like kindness or, you know what I mean? And I don't know, it's kind
No,
of
you're
made
totally
me,
right.
it's made me reevaluate, but
Yeah,
it's just
no.
interesting.
No, I see exactly. I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's hard, and also like I mean, you lose a little faith in the system when you see everything like this. Like it's like you go and like you're talking about homeless populations. Like We look at like the budget of like this is like Los Angeles County or something, like their like budget in general, like their police department. And this also, because this just goes back to, this is kind of off topic, kind of the like average city budgets, like the police departments almost garner 60% of a budget in every single city across the entire country. So
Yeah.
like we're consistently putting all of our like money in, like in Los Angeles County, it's like $1 billion, like the police budget. Like it's something fucking nuts. And
Yeah.
then you look at the amount of money that they put towards like homeless people, or like health, like mental health and shit like that. And it's
Yeah. Yeah.
literally like a tenth, like not even, it's like a 20th
Yeah.
of the percentage. And then it's like it's demoralizing to an extent, because you're like, the fuck can I even do about this? Because my even the people who we put in power, so-called, have these people's interests in heart, aren't doing what they're supposed to do anyways.
Yeah. And I think that's what like makes people lose faith in like the Democratic Party, is because
For
like
sure.
it's so idealistic and so like like utopia. Like all the shit that comes out of their mouth is like gumdrops and roses. And then like I live here in San Jose, or even worse, you go up to San Francisco or you go down to LA, and it's literally a nightmare, bro. Like I know Fox News and shit be trying to like overhype how bad it is, but like I swear to God, it's really that bad, bro. Like
Mm-hmm.
like right now in like San Francisco, and I consider myself like probably tougher than your average dude. Like I'm not walking down in San Francisco at night by myself right now without a
Right.
gun. Like
Right.
there's not a chance in hell. It was bad before the pandemic, bro. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to like scare off homeless people. I had like a homeless dude try to get in our car and shit. Like it's bad. Like it's bad
Mm-hmm.
up there. So it's like you hear these Democratic politicians like with all these idealistic fucking
Mm-hmm.
know-it-all answers, like, oh, you have all the answers, and then you look and it's like, where the fuck,
Right.
why isn't this shit working there? Like
Right.
I feel like it's an exhausted talking point that's probably overused by the right, but just having experienced it firsthand, it's
Mm-hmm.
like that's like the one thing when they start talking about that, I'm like, God damn it, you kind of have a point there. Like I don't know.
No. I'm a literal registered independent for a reason. Like I am not a Democrat or Republican. Now, do I tend to vote Democrat most of the time? I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
and
but
me
I'm
too,
not
bro.
either of them. But yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like I lean heavily left, but
Mhm.
I refuse to like get in bed with them just because I see some of the hypocrisy and
Oh,
just
dude, so much hypocrisy. Absolutely. Yeah, they stand on a moral high ground, but yet, like, pass legislation that does not. And I say this, like, in general, there are definitely, there, I'm gonna be pretty frank here. I don't think there are any good Republicans in all, and when it comes to politicians, not
yeah.
people. Oh my God, I'm not going to generalize for a
No,
population.
but the
No,
actual
the people
people.
who are literally in power, like the politician Republicans, there's not a single one of them who has our best interest at heart, unless you're a fucking millionaire and you're white. Like these are the only two things
No,
that
I
come into
feel that.
play here. And I mean, there's a ton of Democrats who are just like that, but at least there are some Democrats who actually care.
No, yeah,
Like
for
there are
sure.
some.
Like
Like
I think Bernie would have actually gave a shit.
Oh, for sure, Bernie definitely. I'm with you. Like all those young, like, and these are more reasons why. I mean, we're not. This is totally off tangent, but I love politics in general. So these conversations are
I know
great.
you did. That's why I wanted to bring it up with
Yeah.
you.
So
No,
politics
there's
is
no
wonderful.
topic. It's whatever. You're my topic, bro. You're my guest.
Hell yeah. Yeah. Thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, yeah. This was a lot of fun, bro.
Dude. Yeah. I think you go back to the fucking the Democratic Party itself. Like I mean, I was a registered Democrat for a very long time, and then we have 2016 happen, and I was a Hillary supporter before I learned about the Sanders campaign, and
Mm,
then I was like, okay. And I would say 2016 was a big awakening moment for a lot of people who were paying attention to the Democratic policy and like the system was occurring, because you had blatant disenfranchisement from the Democratic Party by the DNC to push that Bernie was not a good candidate. Like there were times
yeah.
that there was stuff like the leak.
The
I mean, hell,
people were overwhelmingly behind Bernie.
right.
Like it
And
was
then you
obvious.
have like stuff like that damn email leak, the WikiLeaks stuff, which was, I mean, maybe it was Russian, like maybe the Russians did leak it, whatever. It doesn't really matter. It's irrelevant. The fact is that they were fucking over their own Democratic parties to push a candidate who is a corporate politician because it best
Yeah,
interests their lobbyists and their money. And
totally.
then they have like ideas of like they were going to skew like Bernie as like an anti-Semite, even though he's like Jewish,
Yeah,
stuff
he's
like that.
Jewish as
Like,
fuck.
what the fuck are they do? Like, they're just blatantly terrible in that regard. And then, so then it was like, okay, Democratic parties, clearly really fucked up. Now, I still voted for Hillary, but whatever. But it's not like I agree with their platform.
No, no, I feel you. I feel you. It was kind of that was a difficult choice a
It was
lot of
so
people had to
just like
make.
this
Yeah,
election is
yeah,
was a
yeah,
difficult choice for people.
definitely.
And I mean, we could argue whatever, but the whole idea though, like then you look at like modern day the Democratic Party, you look at like the young guns, like the young candidates who are actually like leftists, who are like really pushing for like, you know, Medicare for all, like the Green New Deal, like ending our endless wars over the, you know,
Yeah,
reducing prison population, like all these great things are getting shit on by the Democrats. The like the whole like
the establishment
the
Democrat.
establishment Democrats. Like you have like AOC, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Cori Bush, like all of these spectacular, like really progressive, forward-thinking people who are fucking smart. Like, dude, AOC is a fucking that she's so smart, dude. You
I know.
watch
Yeah,
those when she like she sits up there in Congress and like literally like just shits on them. Like they like try and pull points and she like intimidates the fuck out of them because she's not a white man and she like actually knows what she's talking about.
yeah,
And
man.
it
It's funny. You know how you know she knows her shit is because every time you hear a Republican talk shit on AOC, it's never about her policy. It's never
it's
about like really
personal.
anything she said. Yeah, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, she's a young dumb bitch." You know, just they'll say
Right?
something just like, or like, "Yeah, fucking bartender." Ha, ha, ha. Like it's
Right?
never about like anything she's actually said or done. I feel I've
Right.
never heard like
No, you're
somebody
totally
quote her and then be like, "This is a stupid thing that she said." Everybody's always just like, "Yeah, fuck her." I'm just
right.
like, but yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
And then you have the Democratic Party like Nancy Pelosi like sitting there like shitting on them. Like all these young Democrats, their ideas are blah blah blah. It's like
She's the
Nancy,
worst, man. She's
Nancy,
the
get
worst.
out of here. I can't stand Nancy Pelosi either.
Like I think Nancy Pelosi is probably more responsible for more people voting Republican than any Trump
I
campaign commercial. Like
I've
dead ass.
I support I like gave money to her candidate who was running against her even though he didn't win. But
Yeah, yeah. Just because, bro, I'm telling you, if you've been to San Francisco, like those commercials and shit, that like I swear it's so true. Like if you, like if any other city, right? In Norman, if you're walking on the sidewalk and you see some shit on the ground, you would bet every dollar in your pocket that that's dog shit, right?
right.
Like in San Francisco, dog, I'm
You're like,
betting every dollar in my pocket that it's human shit. Like it's more likely to be human shit than dog shit. Like it, and then
yeah.
like legit, like there's just like needles everywhere.
Man,
Like those, it's
that's
so
just
bad,
sucks.
man.
That
It,
sucks. That just shows a blatant. That just tells me that the community and the people who are in charge are just not. They don't fucking care. They just aren't
yeah,
doing what they need to do. Like it's just that's so unfortunate, dude. That's
man.
so unfortunate that these people are just. Why are these people in? How do these people even get these positions?
Well,
Like
they
how
get
does
them like 40 fucking years ago when the United States population was literally like half of what it is now.
yeah, and a
And
bunch of
like,
racists still at that
yeah,
like
and they
segment
just
like it was just built in like already like
yeah, man. And then
it's not.
one last little question for you, kind of on this similar kind of train, similar topic.
Mhm.
And is this going too far? Is this something you like? Portland's decriminalization of all drugs, and like including hard drugs. What's your thoughts on that?
I'm all for it, dude. I think it's a
Yeah,
great idea. I think it's a fucking wonderful idea.
yeah.
You look at a country like Portugal, who has decriminalized all drugs, and they make it so like people who have like heroin addictions, meth addictions, they go and shoot up at like actual like places overseen by doctors and like physicians and shit like that. I don't know if that's exactly what's going to happen in Oregon, but that idea, like if they can push towards that concept, because drug people who do drugs aren't criminals, man. Like that's just like straightforward. You do drugs doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means maybe you're in a rough spot. Maybe there's just so many variables. But to draw the line that like just because you've done drugs means that you need to be in jail or like you need to be prosecuted as a criminal is just stupid. Like it just
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
make sense.
And then
And I
it
think
costs money instead
costs
of
money,
yeah.
absolutely. We lock them up, we spend taxpayer money. And then in all reality, I think that this like there's a lot of things that prohibition is also like enticing to people. Like people see things that are illegal and are kind of like I kind of want to try that like because
Especially
like
kids. Especially
yeah,
kids. I remember being young and like it just felt so damn cool to be doing something you weren't supposed to be doing,
right.
man.
Totally.
Like it's
I think that yeah, I think
yeah,
that
that's
that
a
has a
real
big
allure.
I think that has a big. I mean, when cannabis went legal, like rec in Colorado, you saw like the reduction of youth smoking weed. In fact, like less kids smoked weed when it was
Yeah,
actually legal, and I
yeah,
think that
no.
that has something to play with it. But yeah, dude, legalize all drugs, dude. Honestly, like
And then just
decriminalize them,
yeah,
and then
decriminalize them.
give the people who are using them the abilities and like what they need to get better.
And
Like it,
apparently, what they're doing, it's almost like a whole cycle thing to where the weed tax money, like they used it to build new rehab centers for these people, and then like whenever these people get caught with these small amount
they
of
go to the
drugs,
rehab
they
centers,
go to the
right?
rehab centers, and I think they have to pay like a $100 fine, which just continues the whole cycle.
That's
It
so
makes
much
so
better
much more
though.
sense. Yeah, it makes so much more sense. And like,
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know why we treat drug offenders as criminals. Like
well,
they're
you
people
got.
just like
I'll say that like like if there's a Venn diagram, right, of like people who use drugs and people who commit crimes, like there's a fairly big overlap there in the middle. Like we
you're
can't just
totally right.
ignore that. Like it
You're
can't just
totally
be.
right.
And so, but I feel you. There's people that exist over here outside of that middle overlap who
Hmm.
get lumped in with that middle
Hmm.
overlap.
Well, and shit, it's also like it's a vicious cycle because a lot of these people who are do criminal stuff is because they're broke as
Yeah,
fuck.
they have
Like
to
they've
pay for
already
the
they've
drugs.
or they need to like pay for their fucking child or some shit. Like there's so many situations where like people turn to crime because they need to survive. And I
Yeah,
think that
yeah,
that's like, no, I totally agree with you though. I think
yeah,
those go
yeah,
hand in hand. Absolutely.
yeah.
I think a
It
lot of
can.
it can. Yes,
It
absolutely.
can,
It
yeah,
can. That's
and
a good way of
yeah,
putting it.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And like, I don't know, it has to be done across the board, or else because what happened in Santa Cruz, which is like a little beach town about an hour south of me, Santa
Hmm.
Cruz, California, they didn't like legalize it, but like they kind of did what you were talking about in Portugal, where they have like shoot up tents and clean needle disposal sites and all that
Hmm.
shit, like because it was becoming a really big problem there,
Hmm.
and so like. But then what happened is like every scumbag heroin addict within like a fucking 100-mile radius, like all moved there because they knew it was like chill. And,
Right.
and, and now like this once quaint little beach town might as well be like
A bunch.
downtown
It's
San
an
Francisco. Like it's,
interesting point.
yeah.
That's that
So,
valid. It needs to
so
be widespread then, so we don't just have
exactly.
one
So
specific community
yeah,
being
like
ignored.
it becomes like a choke point. Like if
Hmm.
there's like like I don't know, like it just like a beacon, like a
Hmm.
light with the moths, just
That makes
fucking.
perfect sense. No, I totally agree. I
Cause yeah,
that's
man,
a
you can't just like ignore these downsides, and like that's what I'm saying. Like when I feel like when I hear people talk about these issues, it's always just the upsides and not the downsides, and
mhm,
it's like those shits really do be going like hand in hand.
mhm.
But I do still feel like there's more of like a better happy medium.
Mhm.
I don't know.
I think that it sucks though, is like a lot of these downsides that occur, like don't even have to happen. They just happen because we have shitty people in power. Like a lot of these like ideals that like certain people want to push, like totally are like a great idea and could happen. It's just you have all these other people holding it back from occurring. So it's like it's such a catch 22 in certain
Yeah,
situations.
and bro, I mean, I also think it's just like human nature too, because it's like, have you ever had like a room of like 12 homies, right? Like back in the day, like whatever college days or whatever, and you guys are trying to decide like what bar to go to or whatever. Everybody's pre-gaming. Like, what I'm getting at is, have you ever tried to get like 12 people to agree on something? It's almost impossible, even in a
Right.
small setting. So
Hmm.
then you like, extrapolate that over millions of people or over hundreds of millions of people, and it's just like it's always gonna be impossible to get everybody pulling on the same rope in the same direction. Like
Right. Totally. I totally agree. Well,
yeah, but
and maybe not though. Maybe we actually do have like it goes. And then this is kind of I agree with your point. I'm just like throwing out a
yeah, yeah,
fucking
yeah,
whatever.
yeah. It's a
But
conversation.
like you give examples of like maybe we don't agree as much, but there are certain things that like it just in this election cycle, like here a couple days ago, you have policy that was like strictly like very progressive, but was supported by both sides. When it comes to like Florida, for example, passed $15 minimum wage. Then you
That's
have
cool.
like you have like Montana, you have a bunch of really red states passing recreational and medical cannabis. You have like states passing paid parental leave and stuff like that in certain states. So there was a lot of, like in Arizona, for example, and Florida, the most voted on thing was not a presidential candidate. It was the $15 an hour. More people voted for $15
Yeah.
an hour than they did Donald Trump or Joe Biden.
Because that
Because
shit actually like matters,
right,
right?
it
Like that's
matters.
gonna
And it's funny though because for some reasons that's why is that a leftist idea? I don't know. Fucking Republicans don't want to pay people. I don't know what it is, but like that
yeah.
was supported strongly by Republicans. You go to Arizona, the most voted thing, recreational cannabis. The number one thing that was voted more than Joe Biden and Donald Trump. More people voted for recreational cannabis. This is another.
And I'm
I guess
sure
it flipped blue, but I mean, in reality, it's a more conservative state. In
I
reality,
imagine it was like that when Oklahoma voted on
hmm
cannabis. I mean, that's where mostly Republican voters that were
yeah,
voting on it.
and people
Like,
overwhelmingly voted for it. And yeah,
yeah.
and even like in June in Oklahoma, they voted for a Medicare expansion, which is like
Wow.
goes against all conservative belief in all reality. But like yeah, there's I think policy that's kind of, and it's funny because those states that ended up flipping for like doing well for Joe Biden, even if they had like an overwhelming conservative, like they had better turnout because of progressive legislation. Like more people were inclined to go vote in Florida, they voted for Trump, but because of the $15 an hour. More people were
Yeah.
inclined to vote in Arizona because of medical cannabis or recreational cannabis. More people were
Well,
inclined to vote in Colorado because of paid parental leave. Like there these policies bring in people too to vote. And I
and
think
it does give me hope in a way because like it gives me hope that there are these concepts of like the quote unquote greater good
mhm,
that supersede party lines and tribalism and polarization
mhm,
and because sometimes I'll be thinking like that shit is too entrenched, like no progress will be
right.
made. But when you're telling me these things of like there's these common grounds of just
Mhm,
these base level, they seem really simple, but like that's a starting point, right? To like
absolutely.
yeah, towards like, and it sounds like a cheesy politician thing to say, but like healing the nation. But like those fucking fundamental little agreed upon cross party points need to be the foundation of something. Like I don't know.
Absolutely. No, I think you're totally right. And I think that's what they're seeing, they're noticing too is that progressive policy is popular amongst right and left people because everyone knows that they need to make more money. People
Yeah,
want affordable health care.
yeah.
People want to be able to go to school for affordable. Like these are things that everyone wants, whether you be a conservative or a liberal. So it's like I think yeah, I think it's only a matter of time until these transcend party lines. I think that this is just like these are like the last few years. I think I'm being very optimistic. I want to just say that optimistically, I think that things will change as our generation gets more into power. I think that, I
Yeah,
mean,
and it
growing
kind of
up in,
is, right? Like it
yeah,
kind of is. Like we're
it
kind of
already
watching it
is.
happen.
Oh, it totally is.
It's just
And
a
I mean,
slow
you
process.
think, I mean, we grew up with completely diverse, like, I mean, hell, like I went to school with you, for example, when our
Yeah, yeah,
parents didn't go to school with anyone who was like other than white. Like
yeah,
we are exposed to more cultures, we're
yeah, yeah,
exposed to more stories, like everything that happens that like that's going to make us, even if you're a little still more conservative, like it still pulls you left because once you're exposed to other cultures, you don't fear that. And I think that's like the main thing is fear is such a driving factor in all these people's
yeah.
beliefs is like they're just controlled by fear. It's like the unknown. Like I don't
And
understand
that's
this
so
culture, so I'm
easy.
scared of it.
Well, and kind of like on that like social dilemma type tip, like advertisers and people have like hacked the human brain to be able to capitalize on fear. Like there's like fear, hunger, there's these like primal like caveman part of our brain that like social media and things play to and
Hmm.
prey upon
Hmm.
that it's really like sinister, bro. Like because on face value, it seems like kind of just like, oh, this is just one of those things that happens, right? But then
Right.
whenever you learn about how like they've like it's very intentional and people are spending millions of dollars on essentially fear, like
Right.
trying to like it's between social media campaigns and like and then don't even get me started on like the Russian social media shit and like
Right.
it, it's it's like $1 billion industry is fear. Probably more than that. Probably $1 trillion industry is fear and making you afraid. Like every like
Hmm.
just between media, traditional media, and then all the other. Like I don't know. It's
Hmm.
not. it's not random. Like, I don't know. I
No,
feel like
it's not.
most people just think that, like, they don't spend time thinking about why. They just see, like, oh, this is what it is. And it's just, like, it's intentional. Like, it's not just like, oh, some stroke of luck with, like, we're in this, I don't know. Like,
Mhm.
everybody, like, you have a conversation with anybody that you haven't talked to in a while, and they're just like, well, a phrase you're almost guaranteed to hear is like, oh, this climate in 2020. Like,
Right.
that's like, but like this climate, like people act like it's just like a stroke of luck or coincidence. Like I feel like this climate was like actively created.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I want to I don't know for sure, but I mean, it kind of this may be a hot take. I want to I would say
But we
that a
like
lot of the
spicy takes over here.
I think that like in all reality, a lot of this has to do with Russian involvement in all actuality. I think
Yeah.
that like you have a blatant campaign. I mean, dude, Vladimir Putin was the fucking like the leader of the KGB. Like this
Yeah.
man is a literal like spy. Like
Yeah.
Russia is their spy game. Like that is what they do. They misinform and they come in and fuck you up from the inside. Like this is literally what they do.
No, you want me to
Oh,
put, I'll put on my
okay.
tinfoil hat real quick and go with you. So like I'm here in Silicon Valley, right? Like the tech capital of the world. Like you drive a few miles away, like every app in your phone has a building like here where I am. Like
Right.
legit. And and you know what else has a huge population of here?
What?
Russians. There's
Interesting.
so many Russians in the Bay Area. So many. And I'm not saying every single Russian in the Bay Area is like a spy or whatever, but I'm just saying like there's so many. Like I never met so many Russian people in my lifetime. Moved in. Obviously in Oklahoma there's not a big Russian population, but
No.
like I don't know if we're putting on the tinfoil hat, you know what I'm saying? Like it makes a lot of sense as
There's a
somebody
lot of
who's like
weird shit.
boots on the ground here. Like every single tech company's here, and like there is a massive Russian population in the Bay Area.
That's interesting. I had no idea in all reality. But yeah, I think that that's a big missing. I think that they just like that's you start from within and you create polarization and you get this country start hating itself or not like hating each other, not itself,
Hmm.
but I think that's like a huge like that's so beneficial to them that it I don't know. And also, I mean,
Yeah.
Trump is just a he that was his base. He played to his base, which was divisive and like hateful rhetoric and racism and whatnot. It just was, and that it fuels the fire, makes
I
people
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. I think an important thing to note here, like especially from like a minority's perspective, though, is that that base existed for him to play to. I think a lot of modern day leftists and things like act like this was like a new thing that he like a new thing that happened since Trump was in office. And
Mhm.
like I just want to like use my platform and my voice to kind of counter that narrative.
yeah, because
And
that's not true. Right, right,
like if those people didn't they weren't born the day Donald Trump went into office, like they
right,
existed. Like like
right.
so like while he did play to it,
Hmm.
there was a very large thing for him to play to.
Oh, absolutely.
Like you know what I
Right.
mean? So
No,
I just
for
wanted to
sure.
kind
Like
of
no,
emphasize that.
I totally agree. I think what it did is it emboldened that group of people. It
Yeah,
allowed them to be like it allowed that behavior to be more socially acceptable. So like
yeah.
more people
Encouraged
outed
in certain
themselves.
circles.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
then and it's funny because you talk about that. We hear a lot of word like for example in like Florida where people are the Democratic Party for example is putting a lot of blame on a specific block of party voters which is the Latino and Cuban voters which is just wow okay Trump got a little bit more support in 2020 right and so a little bit more Latino voters voted for Trump but
When
like
everybody knows
that's
Cubans are Republicans, that's like a wide known like fact. That's
well
like
Fidel Castro and all that good
yeah,
nonsense
yeah.
and all that stuff you're right
Yeah,
but
like Jorge Masvidal, the UFC fighter, is like he's a Cuban. He's like
there's a
really
lot
into
of
Trump.
reactionary politics in that area.
Yeah, yeah,
The the fact that we single in on like the Latino vote is racist in its own view
well,
because like what 70% of white women vote for Donald Trump like the majority of college educated white men vote for Donald Trump the majority of college educated white women vote for Donald Trump like what are you guys talking about maybe we should be criticizing the
well,
white
and
people.
you know what it reminds me of, bro? And it's kind of funny, but it's also like I swear it's like plays hand in hand with this. Is the other day I think it was like Chelsea Handler said like 50 cents not black if he votes for Trump. And it's just like, bitch, who the fuck are you to tell a black man 50
Yeah.
Cent at that? Like,
That's
and
like
I,
Joe Biden saying that shit too on fucking
yeah,
the
that's a
goddamn on the
narrative.
Breakfast Club.
That's a
Dude,
narrative
that
that's
and
losing a
that's
lot of black people
huge.
from the left. Like, black people hate that shit. Like,
And I don't blame any person for disliking that because I'm a white man and I thought that that was fucking
that's
disgusting. I'm
cringy as
like,
fuck.
God, what the
Yeah.
fuck is this dude doing? That's the thing. The Democratic Party, like, there's this whole, wow, Donald Trump gained support. Well, and yeah, he did, but it's because you campaign on the idea of like, there was no Donald Trump, their campaign was willing to sit out there and just say bullshit. Like just say whatever the fuck they want. And no one hold them accountable. And
Yeah.
that's really easy to go out and say like I gave more jobs to black people than any other president in history. You know, like that's the shit he would say. And
Yeah.
it's just like, okay, none of this is necessarily true at all, but there's nobody sitting here or not even the Biden campaign is even willing to acknowledge this talking point and make you eat your words. So like you have this whole population of people who
Well,
in
they
this
were like, oh, we got Kamala. Like, why? Like, that's a wrap.
dude
Like, we got
and
like,
Kamala's fucking awful. Oh my, I'm sorry, I don't know, hot take maybe, but I
no,
don't
no,
like Kamala at
I'm
all.
not on it
And
either. That
I think that that was once again just a major pander. The Democratic Party is
I thought
great
so
at
too.
performance politics. This is what we
When
do.
she fucking walked out in the Timbs, I was like, is this a Chappelle show skit right now? Is
Dude,
this
I
Key
didn't
and
even
Peele?
know she did that.
Yeah, no, there was like a famous like it went viral. She like got off of like the little
No.
private jet wearing like they weren't like full on Tim. They were Timberland brand, but they were like a little like a soccer mom version of a
No.
Tim. And I was just like, is this literally like Key and Peele right now? Like this is a Key and Peele skit. It has to be. Like
I have my
it
phone
was
on Do
fun. It
Not
was
Disturb, but
hilarious. It really was hilarious. But
I just got a call. I don't know how I'm on Do Not
no,
Disturb,
no,
but
no,
it's still
you're
gonna come.
fine, bro. No, that shit
Uh,
happens. But
but
yeah, I was just that was funny, man.
yeah, no, it's like it shows how blatantly like out of touch even the Democrats are with their own party. Like we're protesting Black Lives Matter all across the country for police brutality, and then we elect a prosecutor out of California as the VP
And there's like
who
there's
made her
multiple
damn
examples of her
career
like
off of
persecuting.
imprisoning black people for nonviolent drug offenses. She literally
Yeah,
made her career off of that. She
yeah,
sat
man,
there
she did.
and she even argued points of overcrowded prisons. She didn't want to allow people to leave the overcrowded prisons because it would reduce the labor force for the companies who are using prison labor. Are you
Oh my
that's so
god.
disgusting. Like I don't know how people like and it's funny because you have all the I call it all the neoliberals. Like the neoliberals are just like the liberals who are they're just as dumb as Republicans in my opinion. Like it's like they just
Yeah,
follow whatever blue or red. Like you don't even know what you're talking about. You still support corporate politicians who push forth policies that will not benefit you in any form or regard, but because they claim to have the moral high ground and support social justice issues that somehow
yeah,
makes them better, but in reality they don't even pass legislation to help that in the first place, so
yeah,
they're really
yeah.
no better at all. But then it's like everyone, all the neolibs are like applauding all the white people, dude. It's all these white people are like, oh, Kamala Harris, yes, yes, yes. It's like don't get me wrong, we definitely did like the place that she like what she symbolizes is fucking awesome. Okay, first female VP, first African American. I don't know her other. I don't know her full.
I think it's
She's like
India.
whatever. I'm not really.
Yeah,
And so like that's awesome what she symbolizes. Fucking progress, absolutely. But then we look at what she represents, and that's where the problem is. It's like she wasn't even gonna win her state in the presidential election. She was in fourth place behind Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, and Pete Buttigieg. Pete Buttigieg was doing better in her own home state. She's not
yeah.
even popular in
She was
California.
selected as speak for her skin and her genitals. I'm sorry, like
No,
that's what it is.
I
Like it was,
really I agree with
yeah.
that. I do. It
And
sucks,
like
but
and like how she even got she like fucked her way up. She was fucking like the mayor of San Francisco and he
I
bought her
really
those tits.
I
That's
have
like a
no
real
idea.
thing. No, I do. Like that's
I'm
the thing. Like that's how she gained like power in San Francisco was by like banging the mayor and having him buy like I think while he was married and then he like bought her some tits. Like bro, I'm telling you, they're like and I'm not like
she
I'm
has
not
fake
trying to be
boobs.
Alex Jones here, but like I'm just saying these people try to tell you how fucking woke and like like that we're the good guys, and then they're scumbags too,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
but yeah,
totally.
man. Yeah, no, that's super interesting, brother. But man, you know what? I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up, man. I really appreciate your time. I wish you
Absolutely.
much success. Everybody, go follow the Medicated Okies.
Thank you.
Yeah, man, it's those pictures are amazing, brother. And yeah, thank you for your time, your thoughts, the conversation, brother. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Thank you,
Um,
Dom. Yeah,
yeah,
for
this will be
sure.
coming to YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all platforms. So go follow Dreadful Talk Podcast on all those platforms. Go
Hell
follow
yeah.
the Medicated Okie. And yeah, until next time, brother. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
dude. We'll have to do this again, man. This
Yeah,
was really
yeah,
fun.
without a doubt.
All
Definitely,
right,
brother.
dude.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, dude. Have a good day.
Yep.